Let's talk about if your goal is purely aesthetics for your training, what would that look like? So we can define this as looking better naked, getting jacked, getting toned, getting ripped, getting swole, getting built, looking like my wife Anel. All you really want to do is have that aesthetic fitness body, right? So let's talk about what that takes, and we'll break it into two categories. First one is adding muscle. So to add muscle, what we want to be is in a caloric surplus. So really, there doesn't need to be any much more than 500 calories per day. That's even quite high. So 250 to 500 is a good range if you're thinking about putting on muscle, but not putting on a lot of excess body fat along with it. Then we're going to need a gram of protein per pound of body fat per day. So if you're a 200-pound man and you want to gain muscle, just eat 200 grams of protein per day, and I almost guarantee you, you're going to be adding muscle unless you're very well trained previously. You're going to add muscle no matter what you do. And then we want to focus on our training, which is going to be hypertrophy focused. That just means breaking the muscle and allowing it to rebuild, right? We want to build bigger muscle, but it has to break first. How we do that is we take a moderate load and we go from about 8 to 20 reps. That's a good rep range. And what we're looking for here is full range of motion. Okay, so I want to make sure especially that it's stretched all the way at the bottom. And then I want a slow eccentric. So eccentric is the down phase of a movement. If you think about bench press, it's when I'm coming down from the top. If I slow that down, it actually will produce a lot more of a hypertrophy stimulus than if I'm going at a normal speed, or especially if I'm going fast through the down phase. So we want to slow down, and then we want to go near or to failure. Okay, so that's an important piece because we want to be constantly pushing our muscles to that point of fatigue to where we feel like we can't lift the next rep. Okay, and then through the research, what we see is that about 15 sets per muscle group per week is what the sweet spot is on hypertrophy. So if you have all of those things aligned in your training, then you will be gaining muscle. Now, losing fat is kind of the other side of things. To be quite honest, losing fat is going to produce a lot more aesthetics than gaining muscle. Gaining muscle is very difficult and it takes much longer. If you have fat to lose, you can change the way your body looks very quickly by losing fat. However, gaining muscle is going to help in the long run. Okay, so what I usually do is I have people start by gaining a little bit of muscle and then transitioning into losing a little bit of fat, unless they really need to lose fat because they have some disease states going on. Okay, so if we're going to lose fat, what we want to focus on is about the same amount of calories, but in the opposite direction, in a deficit. So about 250 to 500 calories. What that's going to give you is, if you're being perfect with it, is about half a pound to a pound of fat loss per week, or at least body weight loss per week. Then we want to increase our calorie burn, right? So to get ourselves into that deficit, we kind of have the two ways: increasing our calorie burn, or we can just not eat as much, decrease the amount of calories that we're taking in. Both of those will put us into a deficit, and what we really want is basically a combination of the two. Okay, so when we're thinking about the training that produces the calorie burn, usually this isn't going to be just weightlifting. We want to move our body to produce as much burn as possible, and long, slow cardio is theoretically the best way to get the most calories burned in one bout of exercise. However, there's a big caveat to this, which is you need to do it for long enough. And most people, to be honest, aren't patient enough and don't have the time to go for a 1 hour to 2 hour long run just to burn the calories. There's better ways to fit that into a schedule, which is non-exercise burn, okay, or NEAT. This is non-exercise activity thermogenesis, okay? So what we want to do is look at the things that you can do throughout the day. So if you are usually sitting for work, how can you stand up? How can you walk around? Walking burns so many more calories than sitting, and if you just make it a habit to walk 3 10-minute bouts a day, then you're going to be burning significantly more calories than you would sitting, doing chores, doing gardening. Those are all things that are going to burn more calories. So try to be up and active and get your body moving. The last one is going to be high intensity training. So this is the best way to burn calories in a short amount of time. It's not the best way to burn the most amount of calories though. Okay, so if you only have 20 minutes, then you better make it high intensity, or else you're not going to be burning the calories that you need. And a high intensity also has the added benefit of having some overlapping into hypertrophy work as well. Okay, so let's talk about what a training program would look like if you're focusing on aesthetics. The first thing that you're gonna have to do is choose what kind of a look you want. Okay, so if you want a much bigger look like a power lifter, then it's okay if you're gonna be adding on some fat. If you want a much leaner look, then you're probably gonna focus on taking down on your fat. But typically what I see is people want to be lean and muscular. Like that's most of everybody. It doesn't matter if they're male or female. They want to look lean and muscular. So then you want to choose what you want to focus on for your muscle groups, and you can kind of rotate this as you go through your training, and you can decide to improve upon one area and then let that rest and improve upon another area later in what we call a mesocycle, which is about 3 months, right? So let's just talk about a week of programming. If we're trying to focus on that stereotypical hero look, right? Big shoulders, V taper, big chest. So we're going to focus on our chest, triceps, and shoulders on Monday. And then on Tuesday, it's going to be biceps back. Wednesday, we're going to do legs and core, and then rest on Thursday. Friday would be back to shoulders, triceps, and chest, with an emphasis being a little bit different here, but we're still hitting all three. On Saturday, it's going to be biceps, back, and core. So those are the things that, these things, by the way, the shoulders, triceps, chest, biceps, back, core, those are going to be the kind of the focus. They're the things that I'm hitting multiple times per week. Okay, in this program, legs are not seen a whole lot, but that doesn't mean that we're not going to be able to maintain the size of our legs, right? It's just not the focus right now. Okay, and then also we have our cardio sessions. So stairs, stair climber, row, walking, those are all things that we can use. What I like to do when I'm programming for a bodybuilding or a aesthetic type workout is I like to have complementary movements. The reason is because I can get more sets per muscle group if I'm doing complementary movements. So chest works with the front deltoid, and the tricep works all at the same time. If I'm doing a press, so like an incline press, then I'm working my deltoid, my triceps, and my chest in that incline press. And I can count those as sets for all three of those muscle groups. So I don't have to do as many sets to get my 15 per week. Okay. Then with, this is kind of like a what would be called a bro split. So this is breaking up by muscle group. You could also think about it by breaking things up by movement. So this could be a push day. This could be a pull day. You could do rotational days. You could do core days. There's a lot of ways that you can break this up. Just think about having a plan on how you're going to break it up. And then also think about how you're going to be burning some fat along the way, because if we're in a caloric surplus and we aren't training to burn some calories, then we're going to start adding fat more than necessary. So never take away the cardio piece. Okay, so how this looks like on a longer timeline. I would focus on one thing at a time, either building muscle or losing fat. It's incredibly difficult to do it at the same time unless you have either much longer time horizons. So you're looking at a 3-year plan versus a 1-year plan, or if you're an enhanced athlete and if you're taking something to help you outside of normal nutrition, then yeah, maybe you could get there like bodybuilders do. However, I wouldn't suggest it. Just stick to doing one thing at a time. So we'll say for this year, we're going to focus on gaining 20 pounds of muscle in 6 months, which is totally doable. That's something that puts us in that 250 to 500 caloric increase rate will get us 20 pounds. Not all of that is going to be muscle, and that's okay, because the second half of the year is going to be losing 10 pounds. I want to focus on trying to get as much muscle of this 20 pounds as possible and as much fat of this 10 pounds of loss as possible. So I go into a little bit of a caloric deficit and I work my way back down. But you notice that I'm not trying to lose the same amount of weight. Hopefully by the end of the year, this would equate to a 10-pound gain in muscle mass, which, by the way, is a lot. Okay, you might see on the internet people claiming that they're adding 20, 30 pounds of muscle in like 6 months. That's insane, and they're probably using some extra substances to help them get there. But if you're just doing normal training and normal nutrition, this is kind of what we want to think about for our year when we're going into aesthetics.